Hey faves, it's Jasmine. Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hey, Jared.
Hey faves, it's Jasmine. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my very first video, so thank you guys for joining me. I created this channel to basically share with you my financial journey as it relates to my personal finances, entrepreneur and business finances, and also my professional development. So the channel was inspired and created for my younger self, like what I would tell my younger self if I had the chance to go back and learn financial literacy before I entered the adult world or before I turned 18. It's also created for individuals who are going through financial struggles or can't just get on the right path for where they want to be financially, but they work hard and they try to do the right things, but they just feel like there's always something, there's a barrier, there's a blocker, and they just want to learn, better techniques and ways of saving, investing, and all of that. And then also for those who are looking for some business finance tips, if you're just starting and you don't have a CPA or an accountant, and you need to know what to do with your money or how to get funds. So that's what the channel was created for. And also for individuals who just like finance, individuals who want to learn or get inspired by learning something new. This is for you too. So like I said, thank you for joining me, and we'll get right into today's video. So today's video is basically a sips and tips, and a sips and tips is basically where over a glass of wine, so you see I have mine here, we'll basically answer some questions that were asked to me through a form as it relates to savings, personal credit, business credit, starting a business, or just a few of the topics that we'll be touching on today. And what I'll do is basically answer from what would Jasmine do, or my advice, or based off my experience, or just sharing any education that I can on the topic at hand. So like I said, I'm drinking some wine. So with the sips and tips, grab you a glass of wine if you are old enough to drink. And I'm drinking Stella Rose Black. So the very first question we have here is, how much is the ideal amount I should be saving every pay period? I usually use two different methods when it comes to budgeting and saving. And one is the traditional 50-30-20 rule, and the other is the zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is definitely my favorite, but I'll just give you the two of what they do and, like how they're supposed to help you with your finances. The 50-30-20 is a traditional method that says 50% of your spending should go to household expenses or, fixed expenses that you have, student loans, mortgage, rent, car notes, phone bills, water, light. Even though they vary a little, that's still considered a fixed expense because you'll be paying it every single month around the same amount. So that is what the 50% of your income should go to. The 30% of your income should then go to spendings. So spendings would be your food, your hair, your trips, any expenses that come up. But then you also have 20% left for saving. So with the 50-30-20, it allows you to save 20% of your income every pay period. So that's what I recommend when you're on a traditional base. Now, when it comes to traditional base, I recommend this when everything is steady in your life and you're just trying to find a better way to manage your money until the next big break comes. The next big break in your life could be you starting a business, you getting a windfall like an income tax check, or you getting a promotion at work. So 50-30-20 is when everything is steady and you're just looking to manage your money better or know where you should be spending your money and how. The next one, which is my favorite, is zero-based budgeted saving, and that's where you're saving with a purpose. So zero-based budgeting kind of looks at it from a different lens, and it does require more work because it requires you to build your budget up every single pay period, saying that I'm just not going to say, oh, I spent 50 on food last pay period, so I'm going to spend 50 this pay period. That it cuts into it cuts into the variable expenses, and it says that these expenses that you have, but they're not fixed, you can change what you spend in this category. It says we're going to build it up, and you basically give permission from yourself every single pay period if that's what you're going to spend again. Mainly, you see that you're spending $300 a week on food. Should you be spending $300 a week on food just because you did last pay period and then you managed to make it? No, zero-based budgeting said, I need to cut this $300 down to $150 because that's all I really need to be spending on food. That allows you to have an extra $150 to save. So with that being said, zero-based budgeting and savings is basically you're saving in that moment. One, you're saving for a purpose, whether it's for an emergency or it's to get a certain amount in your bank account to get your dream car, to get your down payment for your home. You're saving with your purpose, with a purpose. So all you have is your fixed expenses and your variable expenses like food and, you know, if you do want to go out to a movie, but you're only spending the bare minimum so that you can save the most. So that's what I like to do, because when I'm actually doing budgeting and saving, then I like to save with a purpose, cut everything that I can. And I'll definitely do some series and show you how to do it, why I do it, and how it helped me like get over financial trauma, etc. And the next one is, I've heard some stuff about liquid savings. Can you explain the difference between liquid and a regular savings account? So basically, liquids is where you can basically get your cash quickly without like penalties, and you can like even sometimes get it within a day or 24 hours. So a regular savings account is a liquid account, because the regular, when you say regular, I'm thinking the traditional savings account that you have at your bank. So that's the most liquid, because you can literally go to your bank and get that money out. Now, when you start getting to CDs and 401ks or other savings accounts that have stipulations around them, those become less liquid because you can get the money out, but there may be, you know, heavy penalties and fees associated with it. So that's why they become as less liquid or non-liquid compared to a regular liquid traditional savings account. So the next question here is not directly related to finances, but it is a personal development question. And this question says, what do you do when you are frustrated when you have so many things to do at once? So for me, I cry. No, I'm just playing. But basically, when it comes to having so many things at once, that does give me some anxiety of feeling like the world is ending. So what I've learned to do is basically time management and making sure that I'm like keeping a journal or a planner or even my calendar sometimes, to make sure that anything that I have to do, and sometimes it can even be chores around the house, that is documented and is on the calendar as reminders. So then that takes a lot off of my mind, where I have all of this stuff in my mind because I have so much to do. It's just getting it out, getting it on reminders, getting it on calendars, getting it on paper. That relieves some of the stress off of me and clears my mind and allows for me to be less frustrated, and even being more open and honest with people. Like, I can't get this to you today, but give me 48 hours, or I can't come to this event because I already have something to do. I find when I do none of that and I just overpromise, then because I care about, you know, how I make people feel, then I end up leaving this place to go to this place, or leaving this client to go talk to this client. So getting it all documented is my best piece of advice when I read this question. Is having a journal and a planner as your best friends will help you a lot and calm you from anything that's giving you frustration. So the next question here is related to investing. And the question is, what stocks should Black women invest in? So I had to take a sip there, because I just wanted to be transparent and honest with my level of investing. I feel like you have this level up to here. I'm probably like right here. So what I've been doing for many years ever since is investing in a 401k through my jobs, and they basically take my money and invest it in whatever portfolio or stocks that they invest in to let my money grow. So I never really did anything outside of my 401k, simply because I always felt like it's like gambling, where I wanted to invest my extra money, and I never had extra money. I was always having struggles with finances, and I just knew that once I got where I wanted to be, I would invest. However, I learned that sometimes investing could solve some of your financial problems, like you using that as a part of your 20% savings, you know, or your zero-based budgeting savings if you're investing it right. So I know I took you off, but I just wanted to share that, like, my level is important because I don't want you to take something I run with. But when it comes to investing, like I said, I love numbers. It's a numbers game. So with that, it's all about your strategy. You know, are you looking to day trade? Day trade to me seems more like gambling, where you're kind of like buying these stocks and you're short selling it. You're selling it like the same day you buy it because you feel like it's about to go, it's about to drop. So you want to pull the money out, pull your profit out. So if you're day trading, that's the strategy. But then if you're also looking to get, like, say for instance, start investing your money for long-term wealth, then you may want to consider some stocks that, let's say, pay dividends, or companies that have strong financial backgrounds, or even stuff that you're interested in that you feel like it's going to be around a long time. So it can be something, depending on your strategy, something that you're interested in, or it could be a money move, like you're looking for companies that pays dividends. So eventually your dividends are paying some of your bills at home, type of thing. So it's all about strategy. And of course, like, I'll do a series, and I think the series that I'm going to do on investing is basically you walking you through the journey with me of me learning investing and what stocks you should buy in, when you should invest, why, how much. So I'll definitely do a series as I learn that, because I do want to be able to provide that value as well and not just be talking to you guys from one box. The next set of questions that I'll be answering will basically be around a topic that about 80 to 90% of the questions asked were in this category. So I'm going to slow it down just to make sure that I'm able to effectively give you some good answers and tips around credit, business credit. So we'll start with personal credit, since we've already talked about savings and investments. So why not jump straight into personal credit? And with that, I'm going to actually use an analogy, and the analogy that I'm going to use to kind of explain some of my answers and tips for credit relates to your report card. So everyone is familiar with a report card from school in some way or another. What it's made up of is made up of grades, you know, A through F, an average grade, and then even when you take it further and looking at GPAs, I kind of want to relate that or kind of compare that to your credit, what you would see as your credit score. So if you hear me mention report card or GPA or grade, it's because I'm trying to clarify some of my answers and help you understand quicker some of these tips that I'll be providing. So let's jump right in. The first two questions are kind of similar, and it's, how do I improve my credit score? Seems like it only goes up 5 or less points after I pay down credit. And how do I make my credit go from good to great? So how do I improve my credit score? And you elaborated by saying, seems like it only goes up 5 or less points after I pay down credit cards. That's an important piece, because even though you're paying down credit cards, we have to remember that there are 5 different sections of your credit report that make up your credit score. So paying down credit cards, yes, 30% of your credit is made up of like utilization, how much you owe on open credit limits, but that's only a portion. So you still have 70% of your score that basically needs to just be as high as your utilization ratio for you to see a good score, or like the next question was, going from good to great. So with that, I'll go ahead and explain the 5 different parts of your credit score to help maybe answer some of the questions, and it may answer some of the questions we have in the future. But I think it is very important, especially on your journal to financial freedom or credit. And those 5 pieces that make up your credit score are: 1, you have, as mentioned here, paying down debt. So your utilization ratio. What that is the amount of debt you owe on open limits. So if you have like a credit card with $10,000, your utilization ratio is made up by dividing what you owe on the credit card by the limit. So you want that number to be as low as possible. So that's one part of your report card. Let's just say you got 5 courses. That's one course or one part of your report card that makes up this GPA/score. So you want to make sure, in my opinion, that a lot of people say 30%, 20%. I like to say 0% if you can, but definitely less than 10%, where the amount you owe on any credit cards or revolving credit is less than 10%. Next part is new credit. So new credit, even though it makes up a small percent, it still is very important, especially when you're looking for credit, because the more inquiries or the more time you go look for credit, the riskier you may look to a lender. They may see that they wanted to extend you credit, but if you've applied for 10 different loans in the last 3 months, it may look like you're in some financial trouble and you're going to be needing some help. So of course, they're not going to really want to lend to you, because they know that there may be a possibility that you might can't pay them back, because you're out there just constantly looking for credit. So it's just like you constantly looking for loans. So then another part of your credit score is going to be your mix of credit. So it doesn't weigh as much as some of the others, but it is a good chunk. Like if you only have a credit card and you don't have like a student loan or a car loan or a mortgage, then it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you can pay down your credit card every month, but what kind of other debt can you handle? Like you're paying down your credit cards, but we don't see a mix. So you might not qualify for a best car loan or home loan because you're not showing a good mix of credit. So then the last piece of your credit is paying your bills on time. So your payment history is 35%, and it's the most important, and it's the easiest way to kind of drop in credit as well. You want to make sure that you're paying your debt on time. Make sure you're paying and your debt to income ratio is low. That just means the amount of debt that you have to the income you're bringing in. You want that debt to be as low as possible compared to the income you're bringing in. So having your debt to income ratio low and making those payments on time all the time is very heavy on your credit report as it relates to lenders wanting to extend you credit. So in order to make your credit score go from good to great, I would say make sure in all of those areas, just like when you go to school, don't just try to do good in PE and English. Make sure that math and science and any other courses that you're taking in school, you're doing just as good at if you want the higher credit score / higher GPA to improve your chances of getting into the best college / getting money from the best lenders. So I hope to talk about the length of your credit history. Length of your credit history basically is how long have you had credit? When was your first account open? Lenders like to see that you have a credit file and you're not new to credit. So building up your accounts, even if you start with a secured card, and keeping it open, or keeping your student loans open and paying them on time, could help you establish that length in credit history as well. So the next question we have here is, what if you have absolutely ruined your credit with payday loans, installment loans, hospital bills? I'm talking deep in debt. Is it repairable, or is bankruptcy the next option? So in my opinion, and definitely I'll be doing a series about this, like financial planning, mindset, financial trauma. So basically what I just like to say here is, if you feel like you've absolutely ruined your credit, bankruptcy will actually be my last option, because you may want to dig deep into like why you're in debt. Are you living above your means and probably need to cut back? Like what are steps that you can take to save? Can you get a second job? Could you move back with your parents? Like what could you do to kind of create a plan to get out of your debt? The reason why I say that is, yes, bankruptcy may help take some financial burden off of you. But then also, if you're planning to buy a home, or if you're planning to make a good financial investment within the next 7 years, you don't want a bankruptcy on your file. So definitely check out my next series. This will be for you. So ways to get back on track, or ways to get out of, a place where you feel like you've ruined your credit or ruined your finances. But definitely hold off on bankruptcy. you know, it's your personal choice, but don't make that your first option without trying some other steps first. The next question is, what do you do when your credit has been at a standstill for over 6 months? Is it smart to pay credit cards down to zero or leave a small balance? Okay, perfect. So I feel like we've answered this question in a sense, but take a spin on it, like the standstill, it seems like nothing is changing. So this question is kind of popular. It is smart. I do want to touch on this though. Is it smart to pay credit cards down to zero or leave a balance? I would say it's smart to pay it down to zero. So a lot of people may recommend leaving a balance just if you don't plan on constantly using a card. But a trick around that is use it at least once every 2 months, because the reason why people may leave a small balance is to not get the credit card cut off, or it seems like it's inactive and you don't need the credit. So that's why you kind of have that small balance, but you can also pay it down to zero so that when your credit report is reported, your utilization ratio almost looks perfect, but you're still using it. So it's still getting reported every month by the lenders to your credit reports. And having it at zero, to me, kind of get it when you can, gives you that leeway of financial freedom to be able to use it when you need to, or use it as a credit building tactic versus you using the debt because you don't have the money to pay your bills and you leaving a balance on there. So your balances should be on there when something drastic happens, some emergency pops up, then you might take a few months to pay the balance off. Or you lose a job, so you have to rely on your credit cards for a couple of months or two. So my suggestion, try to pay them down to zero. The next one is, what is it to take to maintain a good credit score? And what's the best way to build your credit score? So I did talk about the 5 parts of your credit score. So just to touch on that again, to maintain it, make sure you're staying good in all of those areas. Continue paying all of your bills on time. Paying down debt when you can. Keeping your utilization ratio down to the lowest part. Don't apply for too much credit. Like maybe 2 or 3 credit cards a year, like inquiries. Don't apply for more than 2 things in 1 year, basically. Also, making sure you're building that good mix of credit history where you have different type of accounts. And lastly, making sure you keep your accounts open, because you may be doing really good and then decide to pay all of your credit cards off and close all of your accounts. That's going to drastically hurt your score as well. So then next thing is, and what's the best thing to do to build your credit score? So just a quick tip to build, when you're building your credit score, to get in there easy, secured cards are the most impactful for me, because basically what you're doing, a secured credit card is where you're taking your own money and you're putting it on a credit card. So you're basically paying yourself back every month, but you're using this money and you're showing lenders that you can keep a commitment to pay every month. You can pay a bill every month, versus if you get a secured credit card and you put $500 on there and then you use $400 and you never pay it down, that could ultimately, that's something that can hurt your credit. So even if it's your money and it's a secure card, paying it on time, it shows the lenders like, oh, okay, they're persistent. They got this. They can handle this money if we give it to them. And to add on to that, another question was, what are things to avoid when building credit? When you're trying to build credit, like some of the stuff we've already talked about, don't apply for too many, credit cards or loans. Don't close your accounts. Try to keep your accounts open as long as you can, because you want to build that length of credit history. When you do finally start getting those cards, one thing that I did is I finally had got up to a 700 and they started giving me credit cards. And I started basically using the credit cards to live off of. Like I was talking about, I was not focused heavily on the utilization ratio. I didn't even pay attention to it. My goal was to just get credit, because I'm thinking, to build your credit score is for you to get credit. But I didn't think of wanting a house. You got to have your utilization ratio. If you want more money, then you have to look like you can handle it. So you don't want to get credit cards just to run them up. Like you don't want to get credit just to make a big purchase and never pay it off. So another question here, and I feel like this is the last one as it relates to your personal credit. Some of these questions, of course, were asked twice. So we got two more, actually. Two more that are different. One is, when is the best time to refinance your home? To me, I have 4 reasons you may want to refinance your home. The first 2 are kind of like financial tips, or what, you know, the wealthy people do. So you want to refinance when the market rates are lower. So when you get your loan, your home loan, regardless, there's a market rate. So if that market rate is changing based off of what's happening in the economy, you want to take advantage of that when it's lower rates available to you. Also, if you started off with a certain type of loan because you may have only had like a 620 or a 630 when you bought your home, but now you have a 700. So of course your credit score was a factor of what your what your rate was. So once you get up to a certain credit score and you know that you could get a lower rate because you're better with your finances, do it then. Another reason is, if you are in dire, you're having a financial problem, something happened where you do need to pay something and you've built equity in your home, take equity out on your home or refinance because you may need the money, and it may make more sense to borrow from yourself, which is through your home, than going to take out a loan. So those are my opinions on the best time to refinance your home. And of course, like I was talking about with stocks, that's another area that I want to learn with and go on a journey with you. So I'll do another series on, you know, for me, when am I going to refinance my home? You know, so that may be something we can do a series on. So I'll keep that in mind. And then last question in this section is best ways to repair your credit. So in my opinion, everyone's credit is different. So it's kind of difficult to say these are exact best ways to repair your credit. But ultimately, in the end game is to have everything. Your credit is your reputation. So having your reputation look the best that it can. So everything that's reporting on your credit report, is it a true picture of who you are as a lender? If you remember me talking earlier about your inquiries, if a lender looks at your reports and they see a lot of inquiries, they may think that you're coming into some financial troubles. Where if you didn't apply for some stuff and it's on your report, you don't want it there. So repairing your credit is looking for stuff that should not be there, or if it's not reported right in a timely manner, like if it should have been removed after 7 years. That's the first step to repairing your credit, is looking for stuff that should not be on your credit report, is my best opinion there. And then that'll take you a long way. So like if you go apply for a vehicle and you apply with one company, but then you see 8 banks pop up where this car dealership has tried to do whatever they can to get you in a vehicle. So they have basically ran your credit through 7 different companies. You did not acknowledge them to do that, or you did not give them permission to do that. That's something you can look into. Or if you have a collections account and you have no familiarity of this company at all, and they're reporting incorrect information on you anyways, you want to make sure all of that is removed, any old addresses. So just making sure your reputation represents who you really are is the best way to start repairing your credit. So when I say start, that's just because I'm definitely going to do a series on this, and it's so complicated. Every situation is different. So everything is not a cookie cutter situation. So when I do this series, I'll be able to go more in depth on what may be your situation. You know, do you have a bankruptcy? Do you have a foreclosure? Are you just paying your credit cards late? You know, are you maxed out on your credit card? So fixing your credit definitely depends on what courses you're taking, like on your report card. That's representative of you versus here's a 1, 2, 3, 4 to get your credit fixed, because everyone's situation is different. So we'll definitely go into detail to make sure you're getting that information in one of our next series. When am I going to get out of this rat race? Why does it feel like every time I take a step forward, I get knocked back 2 steps? More money, more problems. I just want to be financially free and do what I want when I want.